Welcome everybody back to Futsal News Live. Jake here with Kiersen Korienek from the United States Women's Futsal National Team. What better way to bring in the 4th of July than to talk to a national team player? So, Kiersen, welcome to the stream. Thanks for joining us. And why don't you start off by introducing yourself to our fans?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. I'm Kiersen. Like you said, I play for the women's national team, football national team. I'm a current player for Grand Rapids OLe, the women's futsal team, and I started playing futsal. I think the first time was about 11 years ago now. I was like 11 or 12 years old, and I was just playing. I played for like OLe/ABK on just a team in the summer, just something to get me out of the house. And then a couple years later, I joined an actual like ABK team, with a bunch of my girls from a club soccer team. One of their dads was like, got an ABK coach, was like, hey, like, can you coach our girls? They want to play for ABK. And then I just kept playing after that. All throughout high school was at ABK. And then I came back a year into college. I came back and played with the team at nationals because I was like still in the right age group where I could play with them. So I did that. And then I took about 4 years off from futsal when I went to college and didn't play at all because I went to Michigan Tech, and started playing again this February when I went to regionals in New Jersey with Grand Rapids OLe, and then started playing for the women's team shortly after that.
That's awesome. So well, first of all, Mia's in the chat. She says we love Kiersen, so gotta shout that
Hi,
out. Mia
Mia.
Quintana, good to see you. Looking forward to hopefully seeing you in action again in the women's division. I missed your NFPL games, but tonight's about Kiersen, so we'll get you on next time. But I wanted to ask you, how did you get discovered more or less by the coaching staff? How did you get that opportunity to represent the United States?
Yeah, so I was at Tech this past semester, 8 hours north. And then about January, Fabian texted me and he was like, hey, like, can you have a second? Can you chat? And I was like, yeah, sure. And he calls me and he's like, hey, we're trying to put together a women's team to go to New Jersey and play in the regional tournament. And I'm thinking, like, I don't know, that's like a really far way for me to drive to an airport and then fly all the way over there. But like, obviously, I want to do it. I just don't know if it's practical. And he was like, there's going to be national team coaches there. They're like looking to get people for the World Cup qualifiers. And then I was like, okay, this is definitely something that I have to do. I gotta do whatever it takes to get there. Doesn't matter like what I'm missing. This is something I like have to do because this is like something that like I wrote this down on a sticky note like almost 10 years ago, and it says I want to play on the women's futsal national team. True
No
story.
way.
Yeah, and I had that written down on a sticky note, and I looked at it like every day for I like the last 10 years. And so when he said that, I was like, alarm bells went off. I was like, I have to do that. So I drove like 4 hours to a near airport and flew to Philadelphia. And my mom picked me up and drove me to New Jersey. So played with the OLe in New Jersey. And the first game that we played, we didn't play too well because I hadn't played in 4 years, and we were playing a really good team. And so I was like leaving that game and I'm like super frustrated. And but apparently the assistant coach of the national team, Daniel Matos, was there. And apparently he thought I played well. And the other team's head coach told me that I played really well. But for me, I was like really frustrated because the game didn't go how I wanted. And I was like, I can't believe I came all the way out here to like lose. And but apparently they saw what they wanted to see from that game. And then about a month after that, like beginning mid-March, I got a text from Coach Matos, and he reached out to me and then he called me and then he invited me to the national team camp in Georgia that was going to be at the beginning of April. And so that was the last camp before CONCACAF. And so I got invited to that camp, and that was like a 19-player camp. And so this is like that was like the final cuts, like from that camp they were taking the roster. And so I was like, okay, like I did all the hard stuff. Like I made it to New Jersey. Like I got noticed by the coaches out of however many teams and players that were there. And now it's just me versus these 19 people. Like I just have to be in the top 14. And then I was like, and I think that was something that like leaving the camp, I was like not happy. I remember not being happy with how I played and thinking like, oh, like I like definitely should have done better. I should have trained harder. Like I haven't played futsal in so long, but I, like, got the call the day that I got back to Michigan Tech, literally, like, I was not even home for 24 hours, and I got the call that I made the team roster for Guatemala. Yeah, kind of. I think for me, like the last time I played futsal, like I was like a senior in high school and my team went on to win nationals and I was scoring like multiple goals in every single game and we didn't lose anything ever that year. And so that was like my most recent memory of futsal. And then I come to this tournament and I'm like, what happened to me? Like I'm like washed up. Like it was just not what I was expecting. I had like really high expectations going into it and I like in my head, what I how I performed on paper wasn't how I should have performed, but but on paper is only so much. Like the stat and the score line like only shows you so much. So sometimes that's hard to remember. Mhm. Yeah. I was super excited to play with Mia again because she was the only one on the team that I had like actually played with before, and everyone else was a couple years younger than us. Citlali and Leslie were on the team, and obviously I knew them and I had trained with them before, and I was excited to play with them. But I really hadn't like played with them before that, and all the other girls were like O5s, O6s. They were younger, and so I was just really excited to play with Mia. Because we had always been on the same team for ABK growing up, and we even played club soccer together for a couple of years there. And so I was just really excited. I was ready I was ready to win. And I was ready to go and play with my friend and win and just play futsal and just get on the court again. I was just really excited to be in that atmosphere. Like even just watching the OLe games is like it's such a good atmosphere with all the teams that we have and bring to those tournaments. It was just a lot of fun. But I definitely had really high expectations, like, I wanted to, like, get scouted for the national team there. I wanted to win the tournament, I wanted to score a lot of goals, I wanted to, like, be who I was, like, 5 years ago and, like, prove that I was, like, still that person.
That's really cool. Well, and then you go. So you're in Guatemala City. Tell us a little bit about the tell us a little bit about the question. Tell us a little bit about like the experience there and what that was like.
Yeah, that was I was really excited to go to Guatemala. I'd never been there before. I'd never been anywhere in Central America, so I was really excited for that. But I did not see nearly as much of Guatemala as I thought I would because it was basically like from the moment we landed till the moment we left, we were basically only in the hotel, on the bus, or at the facility because it was very much a business trip. It was very similar to how it was when we were in Georgia. There wasn't very much downtime, and if there was downtime, it's like you're getting rehab or you're doing recovery or like you're doing some or you're watching film, like you're doing something. And it's very cool to be in that environment and surrounded by a bunch of people who it's like for 1 week, futsal gets to be our job. And as women or as people in the United States in general, we don't get that opportunity ever. And so it was so cool to just be completely immersed in futsal for like a week or 10 days or however long it was. And that was just an incredible opportunity. And the vibes were amazing. We at the hotel that we were staying at, we had the like entire second floor just like for like our team rooms and like our med rooms and our like equipment rooms and all of that. So like that was super fun. Like everyone was in like the same floor. Um the facility, the Domo Polideportivo was awesome and very cool to play in. Like I haven't been in a facility that nice before, I don't think for futsal. I've been in a couple pretty nice ones, but I don't think I've been in any that nice. So that was really cool, and the energy was really exciting when we were there. And we didn't get as many fans as I was hoping. But there was a lot of people that would show up for the Guatemala games that would happen at night, and that like crowd was like pretty electric. But for our games, I was definitely hoping for more people. But it was still really cool to see all the people that did come because like obviously like our first game was like United States versus Honduras. It's like neither of those are Guatemala. So like if anyone's there to watch us, it's like they intentionally came to watch us. So that was really cool.
How many games did you watch? Like, obviously, you have your own job you have to worry about, like you said, but there's all this great futsal being played. Like, did you hang out a lot in the arena since it was mostly business, not a lot to do outside of like doing touristy stuff, or what was your game plan?
We the day before our first game, we watched Honduras versus Nicaragua because they had a play-in match and we were supposed to play the winner the next day. So we went and watched that game as a team. And then we didn't watch any of the other games in person, but we always had them on at the hotel. Like we
That's
were
cool.
always streaming them.
That's cool. We streamed a lot of them here on the channel, and it looked, yeah, like you said, the locals were all in, especially that very first Guatemala match. And
Hmm.
even though the tournament didn't go the way they had hoped, the fans were really supportive, which was really cool. I'd love to see that here in the United States at some point, host that tournament here. But was I know it's very hot down there and very humid. Did that have any impact on you? Like, did you have to do any like training preparation different than what you would normally do to kind of prepare for a trip out of the country?
I don't think so. I didn't really notice it. There was a different facility that we trained at that wasn't the one that we played in. We trained at that one a couple of times, and that one was like super hot, and that was terrible. And so I think anything after that where we played our games was just better. And so it didn't seem to bother anybody. And we played at I think we our games were like at like 5 p.m. local time. And so it was like a pretty good time. Like the sun was setting. So
Not quite
it
so,
wasn't too bad.
not quite so bad. That's cool.
Yeah.
So what? Tell me a bit about a little bit more about what the team atmosphere was like during the tournament. Like what was everybody feeling? Kind of walk us through the results from the games and kind of what the message was.
Yeah, going into it, there was like a lot of excitement and like also nerves, but like nerves are good. So we were all just really hype and excited to like play for our country. And the vibes were super good. And going into the Honduras game, we were like, we are going to totally just go out there and do everything that we can to like dominate this game and dominate this tournament. And obviously, with the Honduras game, that's exactly what we did. And after in the locker room, we were all like dancing and getting hype, and it was so much fun. And then next day comes around because we don't get any days off in between the games. It was 3 days in a row. And so we were playing Costa Rica and we're getting hype in the locker room again before, but the vibes are kind of off. And then the lights turn off in the arena and our game
Yeah,
is
that was so weird.
postponed. So yeah, the lights turned off during the Honduras game too, but it was like right before the end, and and we were up like 7-0, so it didn't really affect the vibe. It was like, what it is, what it is. But before the Costa Rica game, that definitely like affected the vibes. Where like, everyone has like pregame rituals where it's like the X amount of time before the game, I need to be doing this, and then I need to do this, and so that like threw a bunch of people off. And like we were trying to get like a dance party going in the locker room because the lights were out, and so we were trying to like do stuff with that, but like we didn't like get hype before the game the day before. And so like then some people were like, well, we didn't do this before and now we're doing it now. And so then the vibes were kind of off. And like I can't remember what the score was when we came in. I think it was 1-0 at halftime, but we were all just like, we need to snap out of it. Like we were up at halftime, but we were all like, we need to snap out of it and lock in and like play our game. And like I don't we just couldn't shake the feeling of whatever was going on, because then we end up getting that second goal and we were good for a little bit, but then when they started to do the fifth attacker, that's when things started to crumble
Mhm.
a little bit. But and so obviously vibes were pretty low after that, because we did get out with a tie, we got out with a point, but it felt like we lost because we were winning for up until like the last 13 seconds of the game. And so that was hard, and we also knew that if we won, we would have secured our spot in the semi. And so, yeah, so going into the third day, I think we were really excited to win because Costa Rica had beaten Canada, and we weren't really thinking about Honduras. We just knew, hey, if we tied Costa Rica, we should have beat them. Costa Rica beat Canada. We are winning this game. We just need the tie to advance. But we're gonna win, and then we're gonna go play in the semis in 2 days. And I think it was a little bit of us overlooking the opponent and getting shocked a little bit by what Canada came out with. And Canada was definitely a team that kept improving throughout the tournament, where I feel like every game that they played, it just like got better. And I was shocked every single time because I thought I knew what I expected from them, and just kept upping it. But the Canada game was definitely something that like I I think physically we were prepared for it. I don't know if mentally we were prepared for it though.
I agree with you on that too, because I like the Canada that faced Costa Rica was not the same Canada that faced you guys, and I think they kind of knew their back was against the wall and it was do or die, and you could tell by the way they were playing. The intensity was just completely different, which was really interesting. But and then you mentioned too, 3 games in a row, 3 days in a row is insane. I think CONCACAF is the only region that does that, and I think it's just absolutely nuts that there's no breaks for you guys. But uh, how did that affect you guys? Did you feel like by that third game you were getting a little tired?
I think that most of us felt pretty good. We were doing ice baths every day after our games, and we were going in and getting treatment and doing recovery and booting and rolling out, and we had like a morning like activation things, and all of that was going good. Some people like were like extra sore in certain places, but I don't think it was anything abnormal. And honestly, I feel like we all felt pretty good. Um I think with futsal, it's like nice, like you don't play heavy minutes and you're not on for a very long amount of time. So like it doesn't affect you as much, I think. Or at least that's how I feel. The main thing that I think affects me in like those 3-day tournaments sort of thing is like the like if you're repeatedly hitting the ground. And I feel like the surface was really nice, where it's like, obviously, I didn't wanna fall on it, but, like, if I did, it's like I've fallen on way worse futsal courts than that, like, would seriously bang you up, and I think that was, like, one of the main reasons that we weren't feeling it as much on our body.
Oh yeah.
And it's also, like, on your joints too, like, we weren't, like, putting as much pressure on, like, our knees and our feet from the, like, floor.
Was it like a multi-surface floor? Or was it because I've heard from other CONCACAF tournaments where it ends up just
It
being
was like
concrete?
cement, I'm pretty sure it was
It
like
was. Oh
cement with some
really?
coating over it.
Wow. Holy cow.
Yeah, but
I
I liked it a lot.
I'm
But
in a
the also
much
yeah.
I'm in a much different place in my life than you, but that would wreck my knees.
Mhm.
Well, if anybody in the chat has questions for Kiersen, make sure and drop them in the chat and interact. This is your guys' chance to get involved too, of course. So Kiersen is here with us, telling us her experience at CONCACAF, and you guys are welcome to join in and ask her some questions. There's some interesting stuff in her future, I think, too, coming up. So we'll touch on that later too. But I don't want to get off CONCACAF just yet. So after, it's a tough conversation probably to have, but after the result at Canada, and now you guys are out of the tournament, what has kind of been the mindset with the team as far as what's next? Like for you individually, and what was the rest of the team vibe as far as like, okay, what's our next step from here?
Immediately after the game, we like went into locker room and everyone was just quiet. And then Manu, she's number 7, she was like, "We're not done yet. Like we're gonna be back here in 4 years. Like we're not done yet." And I just like remember like how like mad and serious she was when she said it, and I was like, "She's, like, so right, like, we will be back here," and, like, she was saying, she's like, "Listen to them cheering right now," because like, Canada was, like, screaming, partying in their locker room because they just made the semis after they beat us when, like, they were, like, clearly, like, the underdog, like, supposed to be the underdog for that game, and she's like, "Use that as fuel, like, that's going to be us in 4 years." And so that's like something that I keep like going back on. I feel like I've developed a one-way rivalry with Canada in my head, where anytime I see Canada beating USA, I'm like, that's just fuel to my fire. Doesn't matter if it's like the U17 team or like the women's team or the men's team. I'm like, that's fuel to my fire. Like I'm taking Canada down. Like it's just very personal with me now.
I
Um,
love that.
but definitely, like, I've, like, started, like, looking at my life in the next 5 years and trying to, like, shape things around, like, what it would look like if, going back to CONCACAF in 4 years is, like, in the cards for me, like, how I, like, need what I need to do now to get there and, like, what that would look like for me.
That's an interesting conversation I had with one of your OLe. I don't know, what do we call them, siblings? Sammy. When I talked to
Mhm.
Sammy last year after he did the training camp, and he said how much it inspired him after the camp. Like, okay, now I know what's not only what's possible, but what I need to do to stay and elevate from this level. So is that kind of where you're at right now? It's like, okay, now I know what I need to do, or
Yeah, that's where I was at, and that's where I was at after I left Georgia too, because I didn't think that I was gonna be able to I didn't think I was going to make the team for Guatemala, and so then I was but I still was, like, leaving the camp feeling like this isn't the end for me. It doesn't matter if I make this roster or not. This isn't the end for me. I felt very like enlightened and like clear on what I wanted and like what I needed to do to get there, which was weird because in my head at that time I was like, well, I'm not going to Guatemala, but like I'm so excited for what comes next. And so like now that I obviously went to CONCACAF and like I'm even like more like I really like know like that I'm capable of doing this and now I know what it takes too. And so like I know what I need to do and what I need to keep doing.
That's so cool. Well, and seeing some other, speaking of OLe, seeing other OLe people in the chat. Aaron Gomez is here. Good to see you, Aaron. And then Rudy wants to know, are you the best OLe coach?
Technically not an OLe coach yet. I hopefully will be this winter, and hopefully one day I can say I'm one of the greats like Jesse and Fabian, but I don't think I am yet.
So are you going to tease the other coaches and tell them like, hey, look, I've been to CONCACAF. You guys just need to step aside and let me run this thing? Or what's the
Yeah, I probably will do
yeah,
that.
a little trash talk? Yeah.
Yeah, some friendly trash talk.
Of course.
Until one of them goes to CONCACAF, I'm gonna keep saying it.
Absolutely. And after, keep doing it. Yeah, that's it. Well, we've talked a ton on the channel, and you and I were talking offline before we got started about the culture at OLe and how it develops people throughout your life, even beyond the youth academies. Do you want to talk about that at all, about what we were talking about earlier, and like
Yeah,
your
I'd
kind of
love
history with
to.
OLe and what it's evolving into next?
Yeah, so when I played for OLe back in high school, it was like ABK. It was the same coaches, same principles, same values, just different name. And that was like one of the coolest experiences ever growing up. And it's what really kept me in futsal and soccer because I feel like I jumped around a lot with soccer clubs. I couldn't find something consistent. I had a new coach almost every single year. But with futsal, it was like the same thing year in and year out. And what I love about the club is that it doesn't matter how old you are, who your coach is, what level team you're playing on, everyone's learning the same exact thing and they're using the same exact like language for it. And so it didn't matter that I was like a 2002. If I got pulled up to play with the 2000 team for a tournament, I like fit into their playing style perfectly because everyone played the same playing style. And like that's what's so great about OLe. And like you don't really find that at soccer clubs. It's like you can hop around soccer clubs and it's like, oh well, I like to play this way and I like to play this, and it's just not consistent. Whereas like ABK OLe is like consistent all the way through. And so then when I was like a sophomore or junior in high school and I started playing on the women's team, it was like the same thing. And it was like, yeah, it's like faster and like they're older and they're stronger, but it's like it's still ABK futsal, it's still OLe futsal.
That's really cool, and I think it kind of shows. And we saw a glimpse of it when there was a women's division a few years ago that OLe was in, and I think one of your teammates, Citlali, was in that as well as Mia and some others. But were you a part of that team as well? The
I
NFPL
was
one?
not.
No, I didn't think so.
No.
But now that there's going to be a women's division in FCS coming up too, and how that kind of creates a pathway now. What do you think about that, and what's to come, and do you plan to participate in that?
Yeah, I do plan to participate in that, and I'm super excited, and I hope that it just keeps growing. Obviously, like futsal's been starting to grow on the men's side a little bit faster than it is on the women's side, but hopefully the women's side keeps growing because I feel like being around futsal for as long as I have, like it's definitely present and it's present everywhere, whether you know it or not. And people just need opportunities, especially like young women need opportunities where I feel like when I went to Guatemala, a lot of girls on the team, like maybe like almost half of them didn't have a futsal team like in their area that they played for. They either had to like drive a long distance to get to one or they didn't have one at all.
Oh
And I'm
wow,
like, these are supposed to be the best women in the country and they don't even have a home club.
wow.
Yeah.
Well, and then I think the lack of adult competition for you guys too is also a major struggle. And I mean, the men have their own version of that problem, as far as something unified across the country. But like for you guys, it's even worse. I mean, there's almost nothing. So, what do you foresee is like the evolution of women's futsal from here? Like, what's the next step? We've got this announcement, but we really don't know much more than that. What are the next steps in your eyes?
Yeah. Just like getting that message out there as much as possible because like when we went to Atlantic City and we played in the women's division, there were 16 teams in the women's division and there was a lot of strong teams there. Like obviously we didn't win. We weren't the best team there. So there's a lot of other strong teams out there that like whether they're I don't know if they're playing in a small league that's in their area or they're not playing in a league at all, but like it's just we need to find a way and us with the men's too to unify it and get everyone on the same page.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with you there. I think that I think that that would help a ton because who do you even pull from? Like where do you even pull these? Like you said, they're players that really don't have a home club, and it creates a learning curve for sure. But it seemed to me like when I was watching CONCACAF, it looked like all the countries were kind of struggling with that a little bit, with maybe the exception of Costa Rica and Canada a little bit. But it seemed like everybody was kind of learning on the fly and figuring it out. Did you feel that way? Did you feel like the other team felt cagey and uncomfortable, just like the vibe on the court, or what did you think about that?
A little bit, but the only team that we like played like that was like Honduras.
Yeah.
And I think for them, they were just really happy to be in the tournament because they had just won the day before. Um, and yeah, I obviously Costa Rica, their program's been around for like 13 years now, so they're very well established. But I feel like a lot of the programs are brand new, and like for us, like the United States, this was the first time playing official international competitions, like aside from the friendlies that took place a couple months earlier. But it's definitely new, and so it's also like since it is so new, you don't even have the best players. You can't have the best players, like because there's no way you were able to go out and find the best players like in the amount of time that you were given.
Do you
And
have you heard much from other players? Like, has anybody reached out to you about how your experience was since you got back?
what do you mean?
Well, like, have other women reached out and been like, how did you get there? What can we do to get there? Like, has there been any like growth or interest since you came back home from the tournament?
Um, not really, actually. But other than the people that I know at like OLe, like I don't really know that many people that play futsal.
Well, yeah, that's true too. I guess right.
So it's
That
like,
makes
but
sense.
it's like, and all the people from OLe, like they know me and Citlali, and they know how we got there, and so, and like obviously they know Sammy too, so they know how he got there. It's so
It's
the people
interesting.
that I know, I feel like have like are if I know them through futsal, it's probably because they play for OLe, and then that means they're in the right spot. So
That's cool. That's cool.
yeah,
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your flow, but I was just
you're good.
I don't know why I did that, but I just like it popped in my head. Like, I wonder if you're talking about like all these things that you've had to go through, and like that. Obviously, I think it's pretty obvious that women's sports is on the rise just in general. And that rising tide raising all ships, and is it inspiring anybody to do that next step? But then too, I mean, everybody's different. Do they reach out to players and ask them about it yet? I don't know if we're there just yet, but it's an interesting concept. Like if who does this inspire next is kind of what I'm
Yeah.
wondering, I guess.
Hmm.
Well, and with that
Yeah. On the
too, go ahead.
I'll say on the flip side of that, there was a girl who went to the Costa Rica camp who I ended up reaching out to because she actually plays for a pro team in Portugal. And so I reached out to her to see what that experience was like because I'm interested in like I just want to play futsal like as much as possible. And unfortunately right now in the United States, that's not a reality that is very attainable for me. And so I was like, "Hey, what's it like living abroad? What's the play like? What are the leagues like?" And so I actually did reach out to her a couple weeks after I got back from Guatemala to ask her about that. So I mean, on my side of things, I have been the person who has reached out asking about that stuff.
That's cool. That's really cool. Was that Tillette? I think is her last name, right?
Yes. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, she's really good. We've interviewed her dad on the channel before, actually. So I've followed her for a little bit because I think that her journey and her pathway to Portugal is just really interesting. So
Yeah, I
um,
agree.
it's kind of a unique story. But with with OLe and kind of the culture that's there, it kind of goes. I feel like it's intertwined with the culture in Grand Rapids. I feel like I beat this horse to death saying this all the time, but I'm always really impressed with the culture up there that you guys have in Michigan. And as an Ohioan, that's tough to admit, but you guys have a really good futsal culture in that city. And we talked a little bit offline about the street rebellion too. Do you think that kind of fuels that fire a little bit? The fact you guys are playing year round up there and getting to even have touches in street soccer.
Yeah, I think it definitely does because like you go to the rebellion and people who are teammates at LA are all of a sudden playing against each other and so it just kind of it pushes you even more like to want to be better and to like be the best and it's like when you like split up all the OLe players then you get like a bunch of really good teams in the rebellion that are like they're competing for the top spot. On the women's side, unfortunately, we just stacked our top team and just dominate everyone, but that definitely helps and I think that like if we can find out a way to get the woman's rebellion to like feed more into the OLe, that would be good to create a stronger women's OLe team. I just don't think a lot of those girls want to have that much commitment at this time, whereas like it's kind of easy to just show up every other Friday and just have fun and like, but the commitment and the traveling is a lot to ask from people who are working full-time jobs. Like we're not in high school anymore. It's a lot to ask for people to travel that much for a sport that they're not getting paid to do. So
Oh yeah, yeah. That's something that's always impressed me about players at that level is the sacrifice. Like you really got to love it at that point to do it. I mean, I've always said that futsal players and fans are the most passionate of any sport because there's really nothing in it otherwise other than the passion. You know, it's just pure passion. It's not like there's money in it or anything. So you're getting that pureness, which is really cool. Well, I know there's not a lot announced for next year, but what is there any? Have you talked to any of the other girls and made plans with OLe? Like, what, well, we're gonna come in, we're gonna dominate. Like, what's kind of been going on in the background?
I've been talking with Citlali and Leslie a lot, because they're like we like trained together a little bit before we went off to Guatemala, and I know Mia is interested in playing, and but I don't think I've actually talked to too many other girls that are gonna be doing it, but I just don't know if they're not around right now or what. But yeah, me, Citlali, and Leslie, we've been talking a while about how one of the big things we've been talking about is how in 4 years that it's gonna be us that are back at CONCACAF because Leslie unfortunately wasn't there this time. I think she should have been, but just not enough time. But us three will be back there.
That's so cool. How do you make a plan for 4 years? That's got to be hard. Like, how do you picture the next 4 years going? Like, do you have something in your head that, okay, 3 years out from Concacaf, I'll be doing this. 2 years out, I'll be doing this.
I kind of wing it, but I really like to try and plan things, but I also kind of just like being spontaneous and just kind of doing what feels right at the time. And so I've been doing a lot of just like what do I feel is right for me right now, and that's what I'm gonna do. But I'm also trying to like look forward to be like what is going to lead to the most success in 4 years, which is a hard thing to do because 4 years ago I never would have seen myself in this position. So how am I supposed to know where I'm gonna be 4 years from now? Um, so yeah, it's hard. Like I mean, though, like really, like especially right now since like the World Cup hasn't even happened yet, like the news cycle has not even technically started. It's really hard to like be particular about what I'm doing. I think the most important thing for me right now is just to keep my head up and keep involved with futsal. And that's all I can do right now until I hear otherwise from the coaches about the next camp or a tournament or something. I just got to keep playing for now and
That's
hope for the
cool.
best.
Well, and you mentioned Citlali a couple times, and you've had her as kind of a teammate that you're very familiar with at the national team camp. Did that help with some of the jitters?
Yeah, that was very helpful. At that in Georgia, me and Ashley Henderson were the only two people that had not been to a national team camp or ID event before. And they also made us roommates, which I love being her roommate, but I would be like, what's going on? And she wouldn't know because she was also new. And so that was like stressful. But it was like we were like at trainings and I was like, I was just so happy that I knew Citlali because I was like, I couldn't imagine coming here and not knowing anybody and like being the only person that's brand new. And so like that definitely like helped a lot. And it's also like I like we flew separately because I flew from Michigan Tech, but we like got to the airport at the same time, and so then I found her, and I was like, was able to kind of like debrief, like, all right, like how is this supposed to work? Like, if I had questions that I was like, that's kind of a stupid question, I don't want to ask someone important, like, hey, Lolly, how does this work? Like, it was really nice to have someone there that I could like lean on, because especially since she like had gone to the Costa Rica camp, so she had a little bit more experience with national team than I had.
That's cool. Well, and she's had some uh, outdoor experience out of the country as well,
Yes.
right? So
Yeah.
she's used to the travel and the grind and all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
So it's a good friend to have, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely.
That's cool. So I got a question in the chat, and you mentioned Michigan Tech, and I've been saving this for the right moment. So this is a little bit more about you personally, I think, than futsal. But Rudy wants to know if you'll be pursuing a PhD.
At this time, I do not plan on pursuing a PhD. I just finished my master's in environmental engineering, and I did some research as part of my master's program, and that made me realize that I do not want to do research. And so, at this time, I do not see myself pursuing a PhD. Maybe in a couple years. I don't know, but not anytime soon.
Well, then, so you were a student athlete at Michigan Tech as well, correct?
Yes.
So what was that experience like?
Um, I it was kind of weird in high school. I didn't really want to play soccer in college because I didn't think I was good enough. And then I had like a really good junior year where I like just came out and played really well all of a sudden. And then I was like, oh, I can actually play soccer in college. And I started visiting some campuses. I visited Tech. I was like, yep, going here. I'm gonna be an engineer. That's what I want to do. I don't
Wow.
really care if I'm playing soccer. And reached out to the coach because I was like, can't hurt. And then I ended up playing soccer there. Then COVID happened. I get to campus freshman year, about a week in. Coach got fired, so we got a new coach. And then the new coach came in. He didn't like me too much, so I had my COVID red shirt and a regular red shirt because I didn't get too much playing time. Didn't play too much my junior year, senior year. Then I had just had my 5th year with a new coach again, the third coach that I've had there. And I actually was a starter and got heavy minutes for the first time my 5 years there. Um, but um, we didn't have too great of a season. They're doing a lot of rebuilding right now. And I kind of decided with futsal and everything that's going on that I just want to be in Grand Rapids. So I like decided that this year I'm like transferring to Aquinas to play there in the fall,
Oh,
Aquinas
cool.
College. Yeah, they're NAIA and they're a super competitive program. So I'm like really excited to play for them.
That's awesome. So will you
Yeah,
be
and I'm
studying?
super excited to be in Grand Rapids.
Oh yeah, Grand Rapids is a
Yeah.
great city. I've visited
Yes.
a few times, and it's a really
Mhm.
cool place. Are you going to be studying the same kind of field of work then at
No, I'm
Aquinas
gonna
as you
get a
did?
master's of management.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
Mhm.
That's cool. What do you think? Athletics and education always kind of like have a little bit of a melting pot to them at the college level, especially, and like mentality, especially. Like how is the mentality and from sports and discipline from sports helped you in your education?
Yeah. Well, in high school, I was like super heavy AP class taker, and then it was basically just like all day in classes, come home, do homework, head off to practice. Probably had 2 practices that night between soccer and futsal and all of the different age group teams that I played on. Come home, do more homework, and then wake up and do it again. And so I feel like I've been living the student athlete life almost my whole life. And so when I got to college, it was almost easier because all I just had the classes that I had, and then I had one team that I was playing on. And so it definitely felt like the load was lightened a lot. And I feel like I definitely learned that I am someone who needs a completely full plate to be able to manage it all. I'm like, if I don't fill up every single second of my day, then I'm just gonna procrastinate because it's like, oh, well, like I have to get it done because then I have to do this and then I have to do this. So I just like I completely fill up my plate. I think starting in my like second year of college, I was always working at least 2 jobs all the time, even like when I was
Whoa.
in season. Yeah, because I TA'd a couple of classes. I was a student coach. I worked at the residence hall desk, the fitness center desk. I was doing research. I was just keeping myself super busy because I found that that's the way I'm the most successful is if I can do as many things as possible.
That's cool though. That says a lot about your character. That's huge.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, so that's how I like knew like Michigan Tech was like the place for me because I was like even if I'm not playing soccer, I definitely will be able to like do a bunch of different things and like I just like needed to like I needed the challenge for sure.
What was it like being so far away from home? Was that scary at all?
Yes and no. I like definitely wanted to be in state, obviously for financial reasons. But my sister, she's a year older than me in school. She went to Northern Michigan, so she was 2 hours away from me when I was at school. And so that was like super nice where it was like, yes, I'm 8 hours away from home, but if I need something, my sister's 2 hours away. And so like my freshman year during COVID, like I went over there and we like visited each other a lot and that was a lot of fun. And I think just like having that relationship with her and like establishing that like okay if like I need something I can drive over, you can drive over, really helped like with the rest of the years. Obviously as things got busier we didn't visit each other as much, but it was like really nice having that, and it didn't make it feel like being 8 hours away from home was far. And I also realized that 8 hours is definitely a drive that you can make in a weekend where you can go home Friday and come home Sunday because I had definitely done that a couple times as well.
That's cool. Yeah, you say in state. That's as barely in state as it gets, I think.
Yeah.
it's such an interesting thing with I feel like the Midwest sometimes gets dumped on, but there's just so many great opportunities in these Midwest states, these quote unquote flyover states, and it seems like you've really found your groove in it and found a way to really make the most of things, and it seems like you're on a great path, which is amazing. What's the next big step for you, like outside of futsal? Like where do you see things going after you're done with your studies at Aquinas?
Right now I'm working at a environmental engineering firm. I have an internship there right now, and so the hopefully I was like planning on working part-time there this fall, just as much as I can in between things, just trying to stay in the loop on things. I really like the company and the people, and I enjoy the work as well. So hopefully I'll end up working there once I graduate, officially done with school, finish off my eligibility.
That's
But
cool.
yeah.
That's really cool. And then that'll keep you in Grand Rapids as well, right? Which is something you said
Yeah.
was kind of a
Mhm.
kind of a goal there. So that's good.
Yes. I wasn't sure I wanted to stay in Grand Rapids. I remember when I was looking for internships, I was like, let's go somewhere fun. And then I was like, oh, this company is super cool. Their headquarters are in Grand Rapids? All right, like I guess. I guess that's just where I'm meant to be right now. Just gotta trust the process.
I did the same thing. I couldn't wait to get out of Northeast Ohio, and I came right back home. So I think I made it 3 miles from my house. I'm living very close to where my parents are now. So it's funny how your hometown has those strings and they have a way of pulling you back. It's just
Yeah.
it's a
Well,
feel
especially
good
like going
feeling.
to Michigan Tech, it was like such a small town where it's like nothing was farther than like a mile away, and it was a very walkable city. And so Grand Rapids is just so different from that. And it has so many benefits living in Grand Rapids over living in a small town, but it's also like there are so many things I miss about living in a small town. And it's like I just feel like I'm like, "Oh, I really miss my small town." And I'm like, "But I love that I don't have to do all of my grocery shopping at a Walmart." Like,
Yeah.
I love that. I love that the nearest Target is 2 minutes away, not 2 hours. Like, there's definitely benefits to both, but I think I'm ready to be back in Grand Rapids after 5 years in the middle of nowhere.
That's cool. Another question from the chat, and guys, if you have questions, don't forget you can chime in, and we'll ask them here on the show. But Rudy wants to know what your favorite futsal move is.
My favorite futsal move? I really like the Berg. I'm not good at it, but
Oh,
I really like
I was
doing
about to
it.
warn you. It's next you have to demonstrate. So he's.
No, 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 no. I also like a little half Maradona where it's like the ball's like rolling away from you, just like keeping it in.
That's cool.
I actually am not bad at that one.
What do you think about like what aspect, kind of along those same lines? Like there's the moves. There's so many aspects of futsal that make it special. But what is it specifically about futsal that draws you in? Is it those foot skills and the movements and the individual flair, or is it something else?
I love how fast paced it is. It's like go, go, go. Sometimes I feel like when I'm playing soccer, like I play the nine in soccer, sometimes I'm like I'm never getting the ball. But like futsal, it's like it doesn't matter what position I'm playing, like I'm in the action all the time. It's just so fast paced and it's so fun. And I like the physicality of it as well. I feel like it's a little bit more physical in soccer, and I feel like with my size, that's something that definitely plays into my favor a bit more. Um, and I love just yeah, how fast you can move the ball around and just let the ball do the work.
That's really cool. Yeah, I think that futsal is an interesting sport in the sense that it highlights all of your strengths, but it also highlights all of your weaknesses too. Like no matter what it is,
Yeah.
it's going to show both. Like there's no getting away from it. Is there an aspect of your game that kind of drives you nuts with futsal that you like that it just catches you and you beat yourself up about?
I feel like defensively I'm not too strong. Never really spent much time on it, and I also just feel like technically I like am not as strong as I am in other areas. I feel like I'm very good at like holding the ball up. I'm really good at shooting. I'm a very physical player. I feel like my technical skills are definitely like lacking compared to that. I think they're still pretty good. I'd hope, but yeah.
And with your teammates, like is that something that you guys help each other out with or talk about, or what's that like? Not only here at home, but even at a national team level, or is there feedback you get from the coaches that's been unique that you remember?
Yeah, but Basically, since I got into the whole thing so late, like I went to the camp and it was like literally less than a month until we were taking off for Guatemala. All of the feedback that I got, it wasn't like, "Oh, get better at this." It was like, "This is what you're really good at, and so just keep being good at it and get better at it." Like, basically at that point, they were like, you are a grown woman. You are on the national team. This is your strength. You need to like emphasize that and like get as good at it as possible because that your strength right here, that's why we have you on the team.
Oh, that's cool.
We're not having you on the team because you're okay and pretty good at everything. We have you on the team because you're really good at what you're good at. And so like that's what like they wanted me to work on. Cause like I remember like asking, I was like, "Hey, what can I work on?" And they're like, "You're really good at holding up the ball, turning, shooting. Like that's what we want you to work on. Just like pivot stuff basically. Like we really want you to work on that." Like and so that's what I did. Like I was like, "Okay, that's great because I'm already good at that." So
Well, we got to see your success from that too, right? A couple of goals from that as well, and the
mhm.
being kind of that point person inside of the arc, and I think you had a back heel from that too, if I remember right, from one of the
Yeah.
games. So,
Yeah.
how did that feel? How'd that feel scoring for your country?
There's my
Oh, we got a
camera.
guest. Look at this,
Yeah, that's Zorro. Um
Zorro.
Okay. Um, well, the first goal that I scored, that was like the left-footed like upper 90. I just remember being so mad when I scored that because they had just pushed Manu down and I was like they didn't call a foul and I was so mad and so I was like I'm gonna take this ball down the line and I'm just like smash it so hard and I scored and I got up. I'm like, "Yeah, I did that for you." Like they're not gonna push you again. And I just like it like in that moment it wasn't like, "Oh my gosh, I just scored my first international goal." It was like, "Yeah, take that. Like you just pushed my teammate." Like that was like literally what was going through my head.
That's awesome.
So
What a way to take it out on them too. I mean, what better way than on the
yeah,
scoreboard? That's
that's the
that's how
best
you get it
revenge.
done. That's awesome. That's really cool. Well, one of the things that's interesting is, OLe's involvement as far as like a youth impact, and you kind of got to see firsthand it with the national ID trials yesterday, and we talked a little bit offline, and I thought it'd be cool for you to share, but a couple of your friends were hyping you up, right, and telling the
Yeah,
kids like,
yeah.
hey,
So
you're in the presence of royalty here.
yeah, so we had the USYF ID trials took place in Grand Rapids this year over the past couple days. And so the OLe men's team had a game yesterday for all the kids to come out and watch. It was awesome. The atmosphere was great. There was like over 350 kids there alone. And then you take in like the regular OLe fans that were showing up, like, the diehards. And so it was just a great atmosphere. And one of my friends, Brooke, she coaches for the USYF. So she was going around telling her girls, she was like, "Oh, like over there, that's Kiersen. Like she's on the national team. She's on the national team." And then she came up to me and she's like, "Hey, those girls want a picture with you." And I'm like, "What girls?" She goes, "Oh, I told some girls about you." And so like I went over and they were like taking pictures of me and stuff. And after the game, Juan went on the speaker and he was like, Kiersen Korienek's on the national team. Like come take pictures with her if you want. And there was like a line of girls coming to take pictures of me. And like that was just super cool because it's like if I was like on the soccer women's national team, obviously everyone who would know who I was and everyone would be wanting pictures with me. And like I'd like to think that that's how famous I am, but like in reality, I know that it's not quite like that. And so it was just really cool to like be, especially in like an atmosphere where like everyone loves futsal, where it's like I had moms coming up to me and was like, "Oh my gosh, we watched your games when you were in Guatemala. Like you're number 14," and I was like, "I have no idea who you are, and like you know who I am." Like that. That was really cool. Um, but it was also cool because like I played USYF growing up. I like went to the national ID trials for 3 years, and the first year that I went, I like got cut. It wasn't an alternate, wasn't anything. And then I came back the next year, and then I made the team, and I was like the captain that year. And we went to Colombia, and the year after we went to Argentina, and so like that was like really cool. As like some of the girls who were like sticking around, I was like telling them it was like just really cool to be like, "Hey, like just so you know, like when you go home this week and you get that email, and like whatever that email says, like that does not define you because even if you get cut, it's like it's not over. Like it's over when you decide it's over. And like if you want to keep like going and this is something that you want to do, like this is something that you can do. And just because like youth like just because you're almost done with youth futsal, just because you're about to graduate high school doesn't mean futsal's over for you. Like like in 10 years you can still be playing futsal. And so like that was really cool. I feel like to like share that with the younger girls, that was like a really cool experience because that was something that was like really hard for me when it was like when I got cut from that team and like I had teammates who had made that team and like there was like and I felt like I should have made the team and I felt like there was nothing else I could have done and like just like, I feel like everyone has that time where it's like, oh, I just cut from this team, or I'm not starting, and it's like it's just really hard to carry on in that moment. It feels like in that moment it's everything, and it's like it's nice to like have someone to look up to, and like that's just saying like, hey, like it's gonna be okay, like it's all gonna work out, like. And so I just hope that like at least for like one little girl, like I could have like made a difference.
That's a really cool message. Is that something that motivates you? Is like being that mentor to that next generation?
Yeah, that definitely is, and that's something that I talked with Jesse about, because when he started coaching me, it was over 10 years ago now, and he was on the national team when he started coaching me, and I was 12. And now I'm gonna start coaching, and I'm on the national team, and so that's also something that's inspired me to start coaching. Is like, wow, like 10 years from now, like you never know, like I could be coaching like the next generation of national team players. Like right now, like you never know like how you're going to influence somebody. Like I'm sure Jesse never imagined how much like him and Fabian would have an influence on me and where I would end up. Or I'm sure maybe they had some idea, but I'm sure they, like, never imagined that just, like, the extra time and investment that they put into me, like, when I was, like, younger, like, would pay off so much, like.
It's an incredible thing, and I coach a little bit as well, and even just like the watching the impact, and I think you're going to find this, and just from talking to you, it sounds like this is something that you might enjoy. Is even just from practice one of a season to the end, or even the halfway point, and seeing how much these kids develop and how quickly they learn is such a rewarding experience to watch. Like right up front, have a front row seat with them and their parents to like how they're developing as a person. Is just really really cool. Like even regardless of where they go, whether it's national team, decide not to pursue it, whatever. Like it's just really cool to see. It's an interesting vision. I think that you're going to enjoy it. It's really
Yeah,
cool.
I'm really excited. And it's also cool to see, like, how even if, like, you take a step away from it, that, like, it's like futsal is still something that is, like, so, like, core to a lot of these girls that I played with growing up. And like a lot of the girls on the rebellion, like I'm like one of the younger girls on the team besides Citlali and Leslie, and like all of them are like a couple years older than me, and it's like they all like not all of them like have been playing futsal this whole time. We all took a couple years off, and now we're all back at like playing at Las Conchas in the soccer rebellion together, and it's like we never stopped, and it's like futsal is like always like something that's gonna like that's gonna hold us together, and like futsal is always gonna have like that special place in our heart, and like we're always gonna like be like when I think of like my futsal teammates growing up, like I'm gonna think of them, even though I like didn't play with half of them growing up, like because they were the players that I looked up to growing up. Like,
That's really cool. Do you you mentioned watching the guys last night. Is that something that you guys do often? Like, is it, or because I remember when you guys played in NFPL, how like those games typically would be back to back, so you'd see the guys watching the girls and vice versa, and kind of supporting each other and cheering. Is that a big part of the culture there for you guys at OLe?
oh yeah, definitely. I like went to my first ABK men's game like when I like 10 years ago when I first started playing for ABK, because well like one of the cool things about it is that usually your coach is playing on the team. Like a lot of the men's players are coaches. And so that's like really cool. Like when you're little and you're like in middle school and you're like, oh my gosh, that's my coach. Like that's really cool. And then it was something me and I got really into it, and we just completely embraced the chants and the atmosphere. And that was something like when we would go to youth tournaments, we would like go watch the '05 boys, and we'd be like sitting on opposite ends of the court like screaming chants back and forth to each other. And we really got into that, and that was a lot of fun. And it like you just got to like hope that it comes around. And like when we were in New Jersey at Atlantic City, like all the men came to our games, and that was like super fun to like have such a big crowd, because like I mean like playing women's futsal, it's like you don't always have a really big crowd, and it was just really cool to have that crowd. And then it was awesome to be able to go turn around and go to their games, and just the energy is so awesome, and they're just so fun to watch. They're just so fun to watch.
They're okay. They're just the champions.
Yeah, they're just the champions.
Does that set the bar for you guys with this new women's division? Is that the goal? You think like, okay, we gotta
Yeah,
show the
I
guys
feel
how
like
it's done?
it's almost like an expectation for us to like follow in their footsteps, especially with like the last time that the women had a team, they were like NFPL champions. I right? Yeah. So it's like that's just like kind of the expectation, and especially with like the core group like me, Citlali, Leslie, like especially like having us, and we've been playing together like this summer and like whatnot. Like we definitely have like a solid foundation. And so I think that is like the expectation. And especially like it's kind of like the same thing that we talk about when we play like in the soccer rebellion, is like it's like an expectation that we like go in and dominate every game. And so like hopefully that's something we can carry like right back into OLe, just like our men's team does.
That's really cool. You know what? Obviously, the results on the court are fun, but I think what's impressive about OLe, and it sounds like you mirror a lot of that and you have experienced a lot of that, is just kind of the family dynamic of it almost. You know, like it's all extended family. You know, you guys, it seems like there's not a lot of, negative personalities or anything where somebody's out there playing for themselves. They all understand it's for the team. And I think there's a reason that you guys do so well at so much of what you do, and it makes a ton of sense. So I can't wait to see what's in store for you guys when you start this women's division. I think it's going to be electric. That's really cool. And then hopefully it's something that gives you some more opportunities, on the 4-year plan that you have, which is awesome too.
Yeah. Yeah, hopefully.
Do you is there anything that you would share, like if we were to wrap things up here, what's like the most important message you would send out there to any women that are, or even girls that are inspired to try kind of follow your path, or what's that recipe for success? What's your advice to them?
What you do when no one's looking is definitely super important. Obviously, it's important to show up to practice and listen to your coaches and take in what they're saying and keep showing up and putting yourself in opportunities and putting yourself in the best situation and doing everything that you can. But it's also like what you do like in your basement at like 10 p.m. at night and you're just hitting a soccer ball against the wall, and or like you're doing ladder drills. And it's like that's something that I remember like doing like growing up for like hours at a time. Like I still have like stuff taped up on the wall over there where it's like these are like the drills that I would do every single day. Like that stuff, like what you're doing when nobody's watching is so important. It doesn't matter if it's alone or if it's like with a group or like with your team, but it's like just doing like extra things like can really like pay off. And especially if it's something you love doing. Like futsal is like for me it's like never felt like a chore. Like sometimes I like go down and like I'll like go shooting with a soccer ball and I'm like sometimes it feels like a chore because like obviously I love soccer, but it's like it's nothing compared to futsal where it's like futsal it's like even if like I'm not having the most fun doing the drills that I'm doing, it's like I understand what the payout is and I understand like what's the result is. So like that. And then the other thing is that I like truly like believe that like you can speak into existence like what you want and what like you think you can do. And like because that's something that I did with like I like 10 years ago, like I knew like, hey, this is something I'm gonna be on the women's futsal national team. I I always knew that I was going to be a part of the first futsal women's national team. I didn't know if I was going to be a player or a coach because I honestly didn't think that they were going to have one by the time I was 30. I thought 10 years from now they still wouldn't have one. And I was like, I guess I could just coach it then. But that was something like that I always like felt that I knew I was going to be part of. And I think just like convincing myself that like, oh yeah, like I feel this feeling and it might be like I'm just making it up, but it's like I'm gonna ride it so hard that it's like that is what it is. Like this is gonna happen because I believe in it and when you believe in it, like you do the things to make it happen, whether you realize it or not. So it's like just believing in yourself and knowing that like what you're capable of. And even if you don't think you're capable of it now, like it's totally reasonable and okay to set long-term goals that you accomplish 10 years later.
That's awesome. That's a great message. I love that. Yeah, and so much of it, I think that people don't realize, and we take for granted we're watching on TV or on YouTube, is the work that goes in behind the scenes. So I think that's really good that you highlight that because, if you only practice with your team for hour and a half, 2 hours at a time, once or twice a week, like, you're never going to get to that level to accomplish that dream. So, like, yeah, it turns into a full-time grind if you really want it. That's the cool thing about it. But that's what makes it so much. I'm sure for you, that's what made it so much more rewarding when you hit that goal, though, right? Is everything became worth it.
Yeah. It was 10 years in the making and I wouldn't change any of the last 10 years for anything. So
An overnight success in 10 years. See, there you go.
yeah, overnight success in 10 years. Yeah.
That's really cool. Well, Kiersen, thank you so much for joining us and the fans out there. I appreciate the opportunity to interview you here on the channel, and I think it's so important that we see you guys. The national team. Although it wasn't maybe the result we'd hoped for, we were all cheering for you back home, and we're really excited about the future of women's futsal and you being a part of it. And I will say, as part of the closing comment, though, I think I don't know if you know this or not, but I was watching the live stream numbers on their YouTube channel as we were watching you guys, and you guys had way more viewers than the men's CONCACAF did. So I think that I think people are starting to take notice, which is really exciting. So hopefully this continues for you guys and something big happens. But I want to thank everybody out there in the chat that had questions and chimed in and sent their love to Kiersen here. And we look forward to seeing you guys on the next one when we do another interview here in the future, about a month from now. And until I see you guys then, don't forget to play with your soul.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.